After all, if a girl wears a dazzling necklace worth a fortune, should it make a man want to kiss her or kill her?
The National Broadcasting Company presents The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Les Damon as Pat and Jean Abbott, those popular characters of detective fiction created by Francis Crane. NBC invites you to join Pat and Jean each week at this time for an exciting adventure in romance and crime. In our story tonight will be Miss Sherry Britton making her dramatic debut in radio. Now here is Claudia Morgan as Jean Abbott to set the stage for tonight's puzzle in murder. A story entitled The Fabulous Emerald Necklace.
The necklace was a breathtaking collection of precious stones. It belonged to Mrs. Dexter Blake, a curious young woman without any social background who'd somehow managed to marry the heir to the Blake fortune. Late one night, she and her husband had left the Stardust Club and were strolling to their Park Avenue townhouse, which was just around the corner from the club.
Really, Kathy, I don't think you behaved very well at the club.
Oh, will you stop picking on me, Dexter? Don't be so prissy. You've been doing it all evening. I just had a little fun at the club. After all, how square can you get? Really, sometimes I...
Now, look, I've had more than enough trouble because of you.
The snobbery deal again?
Now, it isn't snobbery, Kathy. It's just that I do have a rather well-known family. We're sensitive to publicity. The columnists were very cruel when you married me, and every time you misbehave publicly, you're just proving their point.
You believe their point, too, don't you? I mean that there's something very wrong about your having married a divorcee, especially one whose family wasn't descended from the original settlers, Pilgrims, or whatever it was.
Oh, let's drop it.
It's come up too often. Now, let's settle it. You'd like to get out of our marriage, wouldn't you?
Well, No, darling, I've never said that, never thought it.
Don't try thinking of it, Dexter. You'd never make it. If you don't like bad publicity, just imagine what I'd do if you ever threatened to get rid of me. I'd give
Shut
those...
up, Mrs. Blake. Come back into that doorway.
What? Who are you?
What's the idea? Get away from her.
I said for you two to get off the straight end of that doorway. I've got a .38 here, and I'll empty it into both of you.
Why, of all the...
Go on. Into the doorway. That's it. Now I'll take that necklace of yours, Mrs. Blake.
Cheap hoodlum. You think you can get away with this just because you're waving that gun? Why, I...
That's it, Mrs. Blake. I'll take the necklace. Thank you.
You give me that necklace?
Take your hands off me.
Police! Police!
I told you not to do that. I told you.
He... Come back here, you. Oh, Dexter. Dexter, he's dead. He's dead.
The jewel thief disappeared into the night, leaving Mrs. Dexter Blake hysterical beside the dead body of her husband. Pat and I had been home that night. All we knew about Kathy Blake was what we'd read in the gossip columns. But the next morning, Pat had been invited to the Sterling Insurance Company. He was in the office of a company executive, Frank Tracy.
I sent for you, Mr. Abbott, because this case calls for a man of your caliber. We'll be glad to pay any reasonable fee, of course.
Is this a reasonable case, Mr. Tracy?
Well, frankly, it's rather difficult. That's why I'd rather you handle this case than any one of our routine investigators. Our company insured Mrs. Blake's necklace, Mr. Abbott.
Mm-hmm. For how much?
$200,000.
Can Mrs. Blake describe the man who attacked him?
Well, she's quite vague about it, but something very fascinating came to me in the mail this morning.
Oh, what is it?
A note from the killer.
May I see it? Mm-hmm.
You'll notice, of course, that it's been written very much like a ransom note in a kidnapping. No use of pens, pencils, or typewriter. The letters look as though they've been cut out of newspapers and pasted together.
Yes, they do.
He makes what he believes is a business offer. As you see, he wants $50,000. For that sum, he'll leave the necklace where our company can find it. We return it to Mrs. Blake and save $150,000.
Yes, very wise, too. The thief knows he'd have a difficult time disposing of the pieces through a fence. It's identified too easily.
Exactly.
I see he doesn't mention how he proposes to have you give him the cash. I suppose he'll get in touch with you later.
Exactly. Now, couldn't we trap him by promising to pay off at a certain place and at a certain time?
I doubt it. Nobody would try a swindle like this without planning it very carefully.
Well, then what do we do?
I'd like to talk to the dead man's wife.
All right. I'll arrange for you to meet Mrs. Blake. Oh, and you'd better have your guard up. She's very beautiful and very clever. I think of her as a kind of Lucrezia Borgia.
Oh, really?
Yes, especially for one reason.
And what's that?
Lucrezia murdered her husband.
I was gallivanting around San Francisco buying play suits for the summer. A very innocent cherub indeed. And that husband of mine was closeted in a private office with Mrs. Dexter Blake.
Mrs. Blake, you say you hardly saw this man who shot your husband?
Well, it was very dark, Mr. Abbott. He pushed us away from the lamppost into the doorway. I could just see his shadow.
How tall was the shadow?
Average height. It's very difficult for me to be accurate. I was terribly excited. I didn't notice details.
Well, if you couldn't see very well, you could hear. How about his voice?
Rather odd, come to think of it. He didn't sound like the usual gangster. Seemed rather cultured.
Mm-hmm. That all the information you can give me?
I'm afraid so. Sorry I'm not being very helpful.
Well, unfortunately, Mrs. Blake, these cases often lead to our having to ask embarrassing questions, probing into the darker corners of people's lives.
Go right ahead.
Were you getting along well with your husband?
Oh, I suppose so. How well do people get along after they've been married quite a while?
I'm not a philosopher, Mrs. Blake, just a detective. Did you have reason to believe your husband was, mixed up in any activity he'd rather you didn't know about?
Is that your diplomatic way of saying, was there another woman? I don't think so. I don't follow you, Mr. Abbott. I wear a necklace, a very expensive one. Some thief holds us up, becomes excited, shoots my husband. And you're making a whole French novel out of it.
That's because Mrs. Blake, very often what looks like a simple holdup or assault or what have you is actually more complicated than it appears. It's often a cover-up for something more deeply motivated.
I am not a woman of very deep motivations. My interests and desires are normal and obvious. As for my late husband...
Yes?
Dexter was not a man of many dimensions either.
Just folks, huh? With a few $1 million.
You're a detective, Mr. Abbott, not a humorist.
Who collects on your husband's life insurance?
I do.
All of it?
All of it.
How much is that?
Oh, about $500,000.
Do you also inherit all his property?
Mm-hmm. It's worth another $1.5 million.
Well, we were speaking of motives a while ago. You'll need an awfully good attorney to get you out of this.
Why? I'm perfectly innocent.
Well, I have an intuitive feeling about you, Mrs. Blake. Nothing too definite to support it. I think you didn't care very much for Dexter, but you had quite a passion for his checkbook.
What of it?
Well, for instance, you find yourself a mug. You make a deal with him. He holds you up, gets your $200,000 necklace as payment, and takes a pot shot at Dexter. You're the helpless wife. Dexter's a very dead pigeon. You come into Dexter's money, the mug disappears with his $200,000. Very nice.
I could have had anything I wanted from Dexter. Do you think I'd trade in a comfortable spot like that for the electric chair?
Maybe. Lots of people try it.
You're wasting your time, Mr. Abbott.
Oh, really?
Oh, not that I mind. Being questioned by a very handsome detective is so pleasant.
You've changed the subject.
Certainly. You're much more interesting. Married, Mr. Abbott?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. That makes it more fun.
Well, haven't you had enough entertainment these past few days?
Not of the right kind. You wrote my phone number in your notebook. Will you call me?
What for?
Why, you amaze me, Mr. Abbott. Some men have to be told everything.
That night at home, Pat told me about the case. Only because he had to, as I found out soon enough.
Now, dear, you know my policy about keeping you out of my cases.
Yes, teacher.
Now, for once in your life, you're going to come in very handy.
Oh, well, now you're getting sensible. You have such a brilliant wife, I never could see why you didn't use her talent.
Yes, well, look, brilliant wife. There's a way to get at this guy who likes emeralds and target practice with millionaires.
Well, how do you do it?
With a decoy duck.
That me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do I do?
We buy you a necklace.
Oh, this gets better all the time.
We buy you a cheap necklace.
You and Jack Benny, huh?
We get our friend Nick Scudder to put a line in this column about the gal who's always at the Stardust Club wearing a sensational necklace. That ought to start our boyfriend, who likes sparklers, chasing around after you. And he'd try to pick you up at the club.
But I'm hard to get, huh?
No, easy, very easy.
This wouldn't be typecasting, would it?
Now, to get the jewels you'll be wearing, he'll have to get you alone. So he'll probably ask you to his place. You'll both go outside and get a cab.
Pat Abbott, do you mean to say you're actually suggesting that I go to a nightclub, make a pitch at a killer, and then take a taxi ride alone with him?
Well, it'll be a special kind of cab.
What's special about it?
I'll be driving it.
Sounds like quite a Halloween party.
Well, it might not turn out to be so jolly, dear. That's what I don't like about my little scheme. You see, somebody in this deal might
What?
Might decide that your throat is a good place to put old razor blades.
We bought a flashy-looking necklace. Nick Scudder plugged away in his column about, quote, the mysterious gal seen every night at the Stardust Club with a rock-studded horse collar that could pay the national debt, unquote. Outside the club a few nights later, Pat was at the wheel of a taxi. I was inside the club, sitting alone at the bar. A very oily-looking Joe came over to me, smiled, and, well, I knew this was our man. I fluttered my eyelids in the best Hollywood manner, and we were off to the races.
Don't tell me you're one of those awful people who like to drink alone.
No. I'm just new in town, and I haven't made friends yet.
Well, you've made one now. My name's Al Francis.
Oh, mine's Jean.
Mind if I join you for a drink?
Not at all. Do you always play the big bad wolf with all the Red Riding Hoods who come here?
Just the beautiful ones. They fascinate me for more reasons than one.
What do you mean?
I'm psychic about them. I'll take you, for instance. I'll make a guess. I'd say you were married to a very wealthy man, much older than you are. You're sick of him. You're bored. You've come here for some excitement.
Go on.
That much was a guess. Now I'll tell you something I'm very sure of. You're looking for excitement, Lovely. You're shopping at the right counter.
I wasn't quite sure if Al Francis was just being amorous or if he suspected I was a plant and might suddenly give me the same treatment he'd given Dexter Blake. We stayed at the Stardust Club for about an hour. Francis hardly even eyed my necklace. He became more romantic and suggested we go to his apartment. We stepped outside to hail a cab. A cab I knew would be driven by Pat.
Hey, taxi.
Oh, here comes one, Al.
Oh, great. Go ahead, Jean. Step in.
Where to, Doc?
1785, Bayside.
Right.
Nice to be alone for a while, huh, Jean? Just the two of us?
Mm-hmm.
Jean, every minute I was in the club, I wanted to kiss you.
Oh, Al, the driver can see it.
Why does he care? Come here. Oh, Gene.
Did you say 1785 Bayside?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Look at those stars up there, Gene. See? Through the window. We mustn't let them go to waste. Just one kiss. Come close to me. Closer.
Oh. Hey, Doc. I don't think there is any 1785 Bayside.
I have reason to think there is, driver. You see, I've been living there for 9 years.
Oh, okay.
Gene, honey, I never thought I'd be lucky enough to meet anyone like you. I always used to say to myself, deep in my heart, Al, I said...
Hey, you think the Yankees got a chance this year?
Look, friend, just drive the car.
Okay, Doc.
When you walked into the Stardust Club, Gene, I thought for a while that someone might be with you. Then I realized you were alone. It took a lot of courage to go over to you. I don't know what I'd done if you turned me down. But we're together now.
That'll be 45 cents. Thanks.
Come on, Gene.
Al, I've sort of a headache.
I've got just the thing for it. Come on.
No, really, I think I'd better keep the cab and go home. I'm so tired.
You'll feel better when we get upstairs. I have some turkey on ice and a bottle of Riesling.
Yes, but thanks. But
Don't disappoint me. Just for a few minutes. We can...
Go on, Bud. You heard the lady. She wants to go home.
Who asked you to get into this?
I invited myself.
You know, I met some fresh cab drivers in my day, but you...
Look, the lady has a headache. So she's going home now.
Oh, you're going to get real cute about this, aren't you?
Good night, pal.
I'd love to knock your teeth down your
Oh,
throat.
Al, don't start a fight with him, please.
Oh, come on, Bud. Let's play rough. I don't like your face. I think I could fix it up a little.
Well,
Al, please. No one must know you and I are...
All right, Gene, all right. I'll call you tomorrow. What's your number?
Just meet me at the club. Same time as tonight.
Fine. Bye, Gene.
Bye. You're the most wonderful cab driver I've ever had, Pat.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Where to now?
Just drive along the bay.
But we don't live out this way.
Yes, I know. But didn't you hear what the man said? We mustn't let those stars go to waste.
Well, the fellow I borrowed the cab from is waiting.
It's all right. Cab drivers understand things like that. The next morning, Pat was just leaving his office. He was on his way to see Frank Tracy.
Come in.
Good morning, Mr. Abbott.
Well, Mrs. Blake.
Do you have a moment?
I certainly...
I've been wondering about what sort of progress you've been making. Have you found any clues to the identity of the man who killed my husband?
Oh, I don't talk about my cases until they're cleared up.
Oh, I think I have a right to know what you're doing. After all, I was married to Dexter.
Frightened, Mrs. Blake?
Why should I be?
Afraid that what comes out in the wash won't be very pretty?
Not in the least.
I went to the trouble of looking into the details of your background, Mrs. Blake. I wouldn't exactly call it nice reading for the kiddies. 3 husbands. One of them had to go to Mexico for his health when the Justice Department cracked down on the chemical monopoly. Another husband of yours has been barred from every racetrack in the country. Then there was that party in Hollywood where you ducked a marijuana charge that might have meant 5 years in the clink. How did you get out of that one? Buy off the judge?
Where'd you get all that information?
I called up the answer man.
Very funny.
Shall I tell you why you really came here, Mrs. Blake?
I want to know who killed my husband.
You came here because the life insurance company is ready to ante up with a small fortune now. You're his beneficiary. You're afraid I could prevent that by coming up with evidence that you might have done the killing yourself. You want to make sure I'll stay out of the picture.
You are going to stay out of the picture, Mr. Abbott.
Well, I'll tell you the next step, too. Now comes the pearl-handled revolver in the pocketbook.
When you get shot with one of those, you're just as dead as with the other kind. So help me if you stop me from collecting Dexter's life insurance.
Threats are a dime a dozen to me, Mrs. Blake. They're part of my business. I collect them, like other people collect butterflies. Good afternoon, Mrs. Blake.
Look, you two-bit keyhole peeper. If you and your junior G-Man badge stand between me and a couple of $1 million, it wouldn't mean a thing to me to kill you. I've done a little investigating myself. Details about your background. You're mixed up in half a dozen cases where one of the suspects might knock you off at any time. And if you're ever found dead, my friend, it'd take the police forever to figure who did it. They'd get into a jigsaw puzzle that'd have them flipping. And I don't mind telling you about it this way either, because I also found out your office isn't tapped.
Oh, it's very thoughtful of you.
I think of everything. Like, for instance, down at the piers, there are men who would be only too glad to take care of you for me. I can buy your death, Pat Abbott. A man no one ever heard of, no connection with you, bumps you off. Disappears on a boat to heaven only knows where.
I wonder if you're so upset with me because I might cost you the $2 million, or because I froze up when you made a play for me.
Oh, it's the $2 million. And as for you, personally, I
said good afternoon, Mrs. Blake, a long time ago.
You're underestimating me, Mr. Abbott, and you may not live to regret it.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Blake.
That little interruption over, Pat went on to the insurance company's office to see Frank Tracy.
Now, Mr. Tracy, I think I've got your man.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Who is he?
He lives at 1785 Bayside. Smooth-looking chap, tall, thin, dresses very well.
Oh. How did you do it? Did you see the necklace? How can you be sure?
I arranged a trap for him. Got him to go after a necklace my wife purposely wore to the Stardust Club.
I see. Well, what are we waiting for? Why don't we...
No. If we sail in and grab him now, we won't have much evidence to hold him on. We've got to give him more rope. He's seeing my wife again tonight.
Is he connected with Kathy Blake, as I suspected?
Well, that's hard to tell. But give me another 24 hours. I think we'll strike oil.
You mean we can arrest him within 24 hours?
Probably.
Excellent, Mr. Abbott, excellent. Now, do be careful. Francis is liable to be very slippery. Oh, how about Mrs. Blake? Do we just let her wander around?
Yeah. Remember the nursery rhyme about the lost sheep? Leave them alone, and they'll come home.
That night, I put on a very slinky evening gown. I was getting ready for another session at the club, but Pat stopped me.
You're not going to the club, Jean.
Oh, Pat Abbott, just because you're going to close in on Francis, you're getting the willies. You're afraid I'll be hurt.
No, that's not the reason.
Well, then what is it?
Francis won't be at the club to see you. He's going to be late. Very late.
I couldn't follow Pat's reasoning at the moment. But, as I learned later, Francis was at home just then, having a visitor.
1 second. Sorry to keep you waiting. What are you doing here? Why the gun? I didn't make any mistakes. Put down the gun. Put down the gun.
You did make a mistake, Al.
No, Tracy, no. I did everything you said.
But I told you not to kill anyone, Al.
Blake tried to stop me. He started screaming for the police.
Then you should have beat it.
Well, you told me...
Where is the necklace?
It's in the dresser drawer. Here, I'll get it for you. Here's the necklace.
Thank you, Al. Lovely, isn't it?
I didn't mean to kill Blake. I just wanted to shut him up. I just meant to hit him in the leg.
You were very careless.
They're not too close to me, are they? Now, take your hide. Where is he? Who is he?
Abbott? He's very close, Al. Too close for comfort.
Well, what do we do?
Oh, the answer is simple.
Well, can you get me out of here? Get me out of the country, maybe? Till things cool off?
No, Al.
Well, then, give me my cut on the necklace. I know some people. They'll help. With 25 grand, I can travel fast.
You're not getting any money.
Well, then what?
It's terribly dangerous for me to have you alive, Al. You get rattled too easily. You might say something that would be very embarrassing.
Well, now, wait, Tracy. Listen to me. I don't want to cut. I wouldn't sing to Abbott. I'll go away. That's all I want. I want to get away. You've got to let me.
Sorry, Al. It would be stupid of me to let you go. Wherever you are, you're a potential threat to me. Now, we're wasting time.
Oh, don't shoot, Tracy. Don't shoot. Don't!
Drop the gun, Tracy.
What? Abbott! Ow! Ow! My hand!
Keep away from that window, Al.
Oh.
I've got more bullets and I like playing rough, remember?
You're the cab driver.
That's right. I overheard your conversation, Tracy. Al wasn't half as careless as you were.
Look, maybe we can make a deal, Abbott. What do you say? How about a deal?
Your company had a very high recovery rate on jewelry, Tracy. And you insisted on not working with the police. That seemed kind of strange. But you clinched it yourself the last time we talked. When I told you I'd found our man, you said Francis is liable to be very slippery. I'd never mentioned his name, Tracy.
Look, I've got plenty of money, Abbott. Make it worth your while to forget this.
I purposely told you I wasn't closing in on Al for 24 hours. I knew you'd come in here to see him. Now get up, Tracy.
How's 10,000 cash right now?
Stand up.
15,000.
I said stand up. You too, Al. I've got the same taxi waiting, Francis. The one we were in before. But this time we'll all have a nice, quiet, smooth ride. This time we'll have a police escort.
A few hours later, Pat had disposed of his two friends and had come home to his ever-loving wife.
Well, darling, I suppose you're full of questions, as usual.
As usual. Tracy had a very cushy spot figured out for himself, didn't he, Pat?
He sure did. The lug steals the jewelry. Tracy gets his company to shell out, say $50,000 to get it back. And Tracy quietly splits it with his pal. The company saves a fortune. Gal gets her necklace. Everything is moonlight and roses.
Well, what about Mrs. Blake?
No. No, she was just a hellcat. She wasn't in on this deal at all.
Okay, Bob. Now, how do we go about celebrating your solving the case? You want to go down to Fisherman's Wharf and have a seafood banquet?
I don't know.
Head for Chinatown and have pressed duck?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
You got any other suggestions?
Well, yes, I did have something else in mind. What do we got in the refrigerator?
Just some cold chicken, a couple of cans of beer.
Well, let's stay right here and eat. Alone.
But why?
Because right here they got services the other places don't have on the menu.
The National Broadcasting Company has presented The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Les Damon as those popular personalities of detective fiction, Pat and Jean Abbott, created by Francis Crane. In our story tonight, Miss Sherry Britton portrayed the role of Kathy Dexter. Others in the cast were Everett Sloan and Santos Ortega. The Adventures of the Abbotts was written by Howard Merrill. Original music composed and conducted by Dewey Bergman. Produced by Ted Lloyd and Bernard L. Schubert. Directed and recorded by Harry Frazee. And now this is Wayne Howell inviting you to join us next week, same time, same station, for another exciting adventure in crime with Pat and Jean in The Adventures of the Abbotts.
This is the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
After all, suppose you were a detective's wife working on a case involving a baseball team and one of the star players tried to get to first base.
The National Broadcasting Company presents The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Les Damon as Pat and Jean Abbott. Tonight we are fortunate to have with us, making his dramatic debut, the man America knows and loves as number 42 at Ebbets Field in Brooklyn. One of America's great athletes and a great guy, Jackie Robinson. Our story is a tale of homicide in the ballpark. And here is Jean Abbott to set the stage for this puzzle in murder.
Pat and I had gone for a spin in our convertible. Meantime, in a hotel room in San Francisco, Marty Phillips, the best catcher the Yellow Sox ever had, was entertaining a visitor.
I told you to stay away from me, Louie.
Well, I told you I'd be back, Marty. It's funny, you're a very smart apple on a ball field, but you ain't using your head now.
Get out of here. I ain't going to ask you again.
You're a sap, Marty. Look. The boss says his syndicate's got $400,000 tied up in Tuesday's game. The boss says you can make yourself $75,000 just by losing.
I ain't taking a cent of that dirty dough.
$75,000's a lot of lettuce, kid. You'll be washed up someday. You'll wish you'd taken it. It's awful easy to throw the game, Marty. You lose a foul ball in the sun. You make a slow throw to second. Little things like that, nobody'd notice.
Will you scram out of here?
The boss says if you don't want to take his dough, you're not going to play Tuesday. You're not going to play ever, Marty. I'm giving you one last chance. You take the dough and lose on Tuesday?
No. No, I told you I'd break you.
Okay, Marty.
Hey, put down that gun.
I'm awful sorry, kid. The boss just can't afford to lose that 400
Hey,
G's.
Louie, don't!
Yeah. It's like I said. You were a very smart ball player. But really, you were just a jerk, kid. Just a jerk.
Get some morning papers here. Marty Phillips murdered. Find big league catcher's body in hotel room. Killer gets Marty Phillips. Get your morning papers here. Get your morning papers.
When we got home that night, John Stafford, an official of the Baseball Commission, telephoned and asked Pat to go to his apartment immediately. Pat, as usual, tried every trick in the book to keep me off the case. But later on, in John Stafford's apartment, yours truly was in the case right up to her little ears.
I'm not calling off the game next Tuesday, Mr. Abbott.
You're not, Mr. Stafford?
No. I think it would be the worst thing we could possibly do. I want the boys to go ahead and play as though absolutely nothing had happened.
Well, do you think that'll convince the people that the Yellow Sox are playing an honest ball game?
I do, Mrs. Abbott. If we cancel the game, it'll seem as though something rotten had been going on. Of course, meantime, you've got to find out who killed Marty Phillips. That is your job, Mr. Abbott.
You say whoever shot him didn't leave any clues in that hotel room?
None?
You know Marty well?
Yes, ever since he played high school ball.
You know anything about his private life? Something that might be a lead as to who killed him?
I know nothing of the sort.
Plenty of blind alleys in this case, aren't there?
Does the case faze you, Mr. Abbott? Simply because the killer has been rather ingenious?
No, it doesn't faze me. Who's going to catch for the Yellow Sox on Tuesday?
Ned Tilton. He's a manager player, you know.
Mm-hmm. How does Ned feel about all this?
I don't know. Why don't you ask him?
Thanks, I will. Maybe he'll be more helpful.
Maybe.
Pat and I went to visit Ned Tilton, the manager player. Ned was kind of husky, gruff, but sentimental, and quite broken up about the death of his pal, Marty.
Marty was a great catcher, Mr. Abbott. Baseball won't see the likes of Marty for a long, long time.
As we know, Ned.
I love that kid. See, I used to sit in the dugout and get goose pimples just watching him behind the plate. He had that magic, like Willie Mays. I busted out crying when I heard Marty was dead.
Well, Ned, have you any idea at all who might have wanted to get Marty?
I think it was some crooked mob, Mrs. Abbott. Couldn't have been any of his friends. They were all crazy about him.
Anybody ever approach you, Ned? Try to get you to toss a game for dough?
I'd break their necks the minute they opened the trap.
Okay, Ned. We'll be moseying along. Thanks.
Yeah. Give a year's salary to get my hands on the guy who plugged Marty.
Maybe we can dig him up for you. Bye.
Yeah, so long. Sorry I couldn't serve you folks anything. I don't drink myself. I never touch it.
Bye, Ned. We'll do everything we can to even up the score for you.
Yeah, well, thanks. I'll be praying that you do.
Pat Pat and I went home, and he sprawled out in his favorite chair. He began toying with his chin thoughtfully.
You know, dear, there's one thing that might open up this can of peas.
What is it, dear?
The Yellow Sox pitcher.
Freddie Manning?
Mm-hmm. Suppose a mob did get to Phillips. He and Freddie Manning are the whole team anyway. Now, Phillips is out of the way, so their only hope
would be to reach the pitcher, Freddie.
Mm-hmm.
I've an absolutely sensational idea.
Well, naturally.
Well, now, if you go to talk to Freddie Manning, it'll be no dice. But if I...
Stop. Right there.
Well, Pat, you know how a man will talk to a woman. They're putty in our hands.
Yes, well, I don't relish the idea of you alone somewhere with Freddie Manning, twisting him into a piece of putty.
Well, suppose I meet him. They say he's a wolf. Now, suppose he doesn't know that I'm Mrs. Abbott. Suppose he doesn't even know I'm Mrs.
The answer is still no. I won't allow you to do it.
But if it'll solve the case...
I am not going to risk some gangs using you for target practice.
But I just want to find out if anyone's tried to bribe him. I just want their name. I just want him to get palsy-walsy.
Yes, I know. Well, there are degrees of palsy-walsy.
It just means taking off my wedding ring for a few hours.
Means what?
Well, so that Freddie doesn't know I'm married. So that he'll get friendly. All right, Pat?
No.
Oh, okay, Warden. I won't try to make a break for it now, but someday I will. I'll get out a stir. Wait and see. The possibility of my solving the case entirely on my own was too tempting to resist. One afternoon, while Pat was at the office, I met a sports writer who was a longtime friend. He introduced me to Freddie Manning. Then, with a double-talk story about my old maid aunt being sick, I gave Pat the slip for a night and went out on a date with Freddie. He was young, dark, terribly handsome. A dreamboat. We went to a nightclub together. I was launching my dreamboat with champagne.
Jeannie, baby, you have just connected with a guy who's going places. You know that?
Sure, Freddie, I know.
Matheson, Johnson, Carl Hubble. Those guys have nothing compared to your little Freddie. And you're in line to be my ever-loving baby, huh, Jeannie?
You bet. You're going to be wonderful out there on the mound this Tuesday, aren't you?
I can't miss. I'm in perfect shape. You know the doc says there isn't a huskier guy in the league?
Tell me a secret.
Anything my honey wants to know.
Did anybody offer you money to throw the game Tuesday?
What do you want to talk about that for? Come here, baby.
Oh, Freddie, people are watching.
All right, then let's go to my apartment. I got a gorgeous terrace. We make some drinks at my bar. You know, if you stand on tiptoe on my terrace, you can reach right up and grab a chunk of the moon.
Well, it's awfully late.
And I got some music you like, too. Moody, low-down stuff. Shearing, Art Tatum, Ellington. What do you say?
Well,
I'll show you my scrapbook. Time I was in Hollywood. And all the movie stars gave me a big party. I got autographed pictures from all of them. To the best pitcher in baseball. That's me, honey.
Okay, Freddie. Let's go.
Good. Ah, you'll like it on the terrace. Nobody will be watching us but the man in the moon. And he don't care.
Freddie took me to an exquisite, ultra-modern penthouse overlooking the bay. He kept the place dimly lit. He played a few records. And then the ball players started to pitch.
Come here, Jeannie, honey. Give me a kiss, hmm?
No, wait.
What? What's the matter?
Well, I thought you were going to show me your scrapbook.
Oh, that can wait.
But I want to see where it says, to the best pitcher.
Okay. Scrapbook's here, right under this table.
Must have cost a lot of money to fix up this place, didn't it?
Yeah, why?
Oh, I was just wondering. I know the Yellow Sox pay you plenty,
But maybe I could be picking up some extra dough on the side for throwing a few games, hmm?
I wouldn't blame you for it. Did you ever do that, Freddie? Do you think that's why Marty Phillips was killed?
Get this. The cops went through that whole routine with me. I don't know anything about it, so forget
Freddie,
it.
you're hurting my arm.
Unless you like to get slapped around, forget it.
All right. Don't get so excited. Now, let's see the scrapbook. That's better. Say, who's she?
Oh, give me that picture. That doesn't belong in there.
To my darling, my own adorable sweetheart. Should I be jealous?
No, she's an old flame. Gone and forgotten. Go on, look at the rest of the book. Look at the big shots I'm with.
Oh, that's Commissioner Stafford, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Swell guy.
He asked you much about Marty?
What the devil do you keep harping on that for? What are you up to?
Nothing. Oh, come on. Play another record for me. Then we'll go out on the terrace and see if we can really touch that moon.
Good evening, Jean.
Hello, Pat.
Or should I say good morning?
Oh, it is late, isn't it?
How's your aunt?
Much better, thank you.
Amazing old girl, isn't she?
Yes, amazing.
Especially the way she has people sit up with her when she's sick.
What's wrong with sitting up with a sick old aunt?
In a strapless evening gown?
Oh, that. Well, you see, my other dress... Well, I mean, this dress...
What'd you find out from Freddie Manning?
Freddie Manning?
You're not wearing your wedding ring, dear. And you've been dancing with somebody who's clumsy on his feet. Your slippers wouldn't look like that after a taxi ride to your aunt's house. Not much fun being married to a detective, huh?
Pat, I went to my aunt...
I said, what did you find out from Freddie Manning?
He wouldn't talk.
You were with him all evening and you didn't get a lead?
No, I tried very hard, Pat. He was kind of touchy when I spoke about Marty. But that's all.
No, I ought to get the hairbrush and spank the daylights out of you.
I was only trying to help, dear. Pat Abbott, I have half a mind to...
You have a half a mind, period. After I told you not to fool around in this case, after I told you to stay away from Freddie, after I...
Jealous, Pat?
No, I certainly am not.
You worry about me tonight?
I never gave it a thought.
You're as amazing as my aunt.
Why do you say that?
You don't get jealous.
Mm-mm.
You don't worry.
Nope.
But you smoke 2 whole packs of cigarettes.
Oh, that.
Not much fun being married to an observant wife. Hmm?
In just a moment, Act 2 of tonight's Adventure of the Abbotts.
What do you know about your government? Do you know, for example, who is responsible for your personal security? The security which comes from being healthy, having a good education, and being well taken care of when we are unable to care for ourselves. A new secretary has been added to the President's cabinet as head of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. Actually, the department handles the work of several governmental agencies. The United States Public Health Service, which safeguards the general health of the American people. The Food and Drug Administration, which makes certain that our food is pure and safe. The Social Security Board, which takes care of older people, children, and the blind who may need help. And the United States Office of Education, which through research acts in an advisory capacity for the various state boards of education. All these agencies, through the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, are ever watchful of our personal security. That's how your government works.
And now for Act 2 of The Blood Red Diamond.
Tuesday afternoon, Pat and I went to the final game in the Yellow Sox series. The stands were packed. There had been no break in the case. Freddie Manning, my boyfriend, was pitching as sweet a ball game as you've ever seen. Ned Tilton, the manager-player, was giving him wonderful support at the plate. Pat and I knew Tom Whitley, the sportscaster. Tom was the sportscaster who sounded strangely like Jackie Robinson, and we sat right beside the mic as he broadcast the game. Pat's eyes kept searching the stands, the dugout, and the field, watching for a tip-off if there was to be any dirty work.
This is Tom Whitley, fans. The game's tied at 1-all. It's the last of the sixth, at the bottom of the batting order coming up. It'll be Freddie Manning, the pitcher, who's doing a great job out there today. The game has been a rough and tumble affair, not as dignified as the games we have at Ebbets Field, where we never try to influence the umpires. It just happens that the field over there in Brooklyn is the only one in the world where they serve right and left-handed pop bottles. Yes, this has been a wild game, and the only thing that's missing at a brawl like this is Leo the Roaster. I know a great new gag about Leo, but he's on top of the world now, and we'll just let him have his day. Well, here's Manning. Get ready to step in. He gets a great big hand. There are 2 down, nobody on. There's the wind-up, the pitch. It's a hard grounder wide of third. Taylor's over, comes up with the ball. This will be close. But Manning falls down, and the throw is there for the 3rd out. Freddie seems to have tripped as he headed for a first. But he's not getting up. The lad must have twisted an ankle or something. Everyone running towards Freddie, and he isn't moving. He's got his face right down in the dirt. The crowd's tense. This may mean he's out of the ball game. Ned Tilton, his catcher, is going over to him now. He's waving for the doctor. There goes Commissioner Stafford, leaving his box, heading for Freddie. Stands are quiet now, very quiet. One woman seems to have broken past the field police. Oh, yes, a good friend of the team's, Mrs. Tilton, Ned Tilton's wife. Now, there goes my man on the field, and he's going to signal me as soon as the doctor finds out what's wrong. He's waving at me now. He's saying, Freddie, why, that's impossible. That's... Ladies and gentlemen, Freddie Manning is dead.
Pat and I raced to the Yellow Sox locker room, fighting our way through the shocked, milling crowd. Commissioner Stafford was there, and Ned Tilton. A policeman stood guard over the dead body. Stafford was very pale.
Well, Mr. Abbott, I really don't know what to say. The usual words don't mean anything.
What is the doctor's opinion, Mr. Stafford?
Looks like a heart attack. No signs of violence. Nothing at all. It was a hurried diagnosis, but from the blood that gushed from Freddie's mouth and nostrils, and from what he could see in just a quick glance, the doctor says Freddie's heart just popped, and the boy died.
You the regular team doctor? Ever examined Freddie before?
Yes, that's what's so puzzling. He examined Freddie last week for an insurance policy. His heart was perfect.
But that doesn't make sense. He could...
First it was Marty. Now it's Fred. Are we cursed or something?
Try not to take it so badly, Ned.
Trying to find my wife. I gotta go home. I don't feel right. I can't stand this.
But I'll find her, Ned. Ned, did I ever meet her?
Huh? I don't know. I don't think so. I've got to find her.
I could swear I'd seen her before today. Ned, sit down.
Oh.
That's it.
How could it happen? How could this happen?
Can you answer that, Mr. Abbott?
I think so.
Exactly what do you mean?
Freddie was probably murdered.
What?
A boy in his condition doesn't have a heart attack out of a clear blue sky. It's very unlikely. The attack was probably induced by poison.
Poison? Well, he played 6 innings.
Slow poison, Ned. Poison from his glove or from the ball or the bat.
But how would he have swallowed the poison?
I'm not sure yet, dear. It was a violent heart attack. Might have been caused by nitroglycerin. That works very slowly till the system has a lethal dose, shows no immediate signs, then suddenly it explodes the heart. Doctors use it for its expansive effect in small doses for arterial tension.
Oh, sounds fantastic. Now all you have to do is to find out which person out of the 25,000 people here engineered that. Rather difficult odds, eh, Mr. Abbott?
And I'll use your favorite word, Mr. Stafford. Maybe.
Pat and I finally left the stadium and went home with Pat frowning, mulling the problem over and over. Late that night at home. What's bothering you, Jean? You look troubled. Well, I've a feeling it'd help if I knew...
If you knew what?
Mrs. Tilton, Ned's wife. The woman who ran out on the field when Freddie fell. I could have sworn I'd seen her before. But where?
She's with the team very often. What difference does it make?
No, it's something peculiar. Where did I see her? It wasn't at the ballpark. Pat, I've got it. Her picture was in the scrapbook.
Freddie's? The one he showed you that night?
That's right.
Well, why wouldn't her picture be in the scrapbook? She's been with the team ever since Tilton joined them.
But the inscription, dear.
What inscription?
On her picture. She wrote, "To my darling Freddie, my own adorable sweetheart."
Are you sure about that?
Positive. I didn't know who she was when I saw it, so I just passed it by. But isn't that kind
I'll
of...
be back.
Well, where are you going?
To the stadium. Now, you wait here. This will be too dangerous.
I certainly will not. Why will it be so dangerous to go to the stadium?
Because the killer may be there alone, and very much in the mood for a few more bloody murders.
Naturally, Pat couldn't shake me off. We bribed the night watchman to let us into the stadium. It was deserted, but there was a light shining through the door of the Yellow Sox locker room. Pat opened the door. Ned Tilton was there, emptying his locker.
Mr. Abbott, what are you doing here so late?
We've just had an idea, Ned.
About Marty and Freddie? Well, come on, tell me about it.
You told us when we visited your place that you never drink, Ned.
Huh? No, I don't.
There's a scotch bottle in your locker.
Oh, that.
There isn't any scotch in it.
Is there?
Got the nitroglycerin in the bottle, Ned?
Yeah. And if you or that wife of yours makes a move, I'll throw it on the floor. There's plenty left in the bottle. It'll blow us all to bits.
You put the liquid nitro on your catcher's mitt, didn't you, Ned? Just enough to wet the ball. You kept throwing to Freddie. Freddie was tossing spitballs. It's against the rules, I know, but Freddie knew a way around the rules. He was sneaking a few across the plate that way. It's happened before. You were the only person who knew he threw spitballs. You knew he'd keep licking his fingers to wet the ball. You knew he'd swallow little bits of the poison that way. That right, Ned?
Shut up, Abbott, and move out of the way.
You got a very attractive wife, Ned. And Freddie was quite a wolf. He and your wife were more than just two people interested in the team, weren't they?
Aye.
Their pictures in Freddie's scrapbook with a greeting that's a little too affectionate. Burned you up, didn't it?
I said get out of my way.
You started out to make a fortune, Ned. You placed heavy bets against your own team. Hired a guy to threaten Marty. The guy had to kill him. Then you went after Freddie. But not because you wanted him to throw the game. No, things were too hot to rig it that way. No, you wanted to kill him yourself for a personal reason.
I've got nothing to lose if I drop this bottle of nitro.
Now, look, Ned.
Keep away from me, Abbott.
Be careful, Pat.
I'll be getting out of here now, if you don't mind. Don't follow me. All I have to do is toss this juice in front of you and the missus. Stay right where you are. I'm watching you. I can still see you. Don't move.
There he goes, Pat. See him? He's running into the grandstand.
Stay here, Jean. I'll get him.
Come back, Pat. You'll be killed.
I lost him. He must have ducked behind the benches.
Come back, Pat.
I told you not to follow me, Abbott.
Get down, Pat. He's going to throw the nitro. Pat, are you all right? I can't see out there. Pat!
I'm all right. Stay where you are. Now, Ned, you and I are going to play a little tag.
You come for me and I'll break your neck.
You picked a bad spot, Ned. That exit is closed. Where you run to now?
Keep your hands off, Abbott. I'll kill you. So help me, I'll kill you. Get out. Now I'm going to choke the life out of you.
That does it. You had enough, Ned? Oh, you had enough? You had enough?
As I came running up the ramp, Ned was out cold. Pat still had strength to haul Ned's body to the locker room where we waited for the police. When Ned was revived, he identified the gunman who'd killed Marty Phillips. I guess someone should have told Ned that Pat Abbott was a Marine veteran who'd been on the receiving end of the dirtiest fighting the Japs could ever think of. Very late that night, it was almost sunrise. Pat? Isn't it about time for me to put my wedding ring back on?
I suppose so.
Go ahead. You put it back on my finger.
How do you know I want to marry you again?
Well, don't you?
No.
Oh, come on. Marry me again.
I said I don't want to.
Would you marry me again for all the rice in China?
No.
For all the smorgasbord in Sweden?
No.
For all the moolah in Fort Knox?
No.
for a kiss.
You talked me into it.
Moral of the story. Husbands who wonder if their wives still love them should let their wives spend an evening dancing with a handsome stranger. I know a perfect nightclub they can go to. And the management is not responsible for hats, coats, or stolen hearts.
The National Broadcasting Company has presented The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Les Damon as those popular personalities of detective fiction, Pat and Jean Abbott, created by Francis Crane. Also heard tonight were Everett Sloan, Mandel Kramer, and Kenny Delmar. The Adventures of the Abbotts was written by Howard Merrill. Original music composed and conducted by Dewey Bergman. Produced by Ted Lloyd and Bernard L. Schubert. Directed and recorded by Harry Frazee. Next week, same time, same station. Another exciting adventure in crime with Pat and Jean in The Adventures of the Abbotts.
After all, what would you do if your husband thought romancing in the moonlight with you wasn't as much fun as solving a murder mystery?
The National Broadcasting Company presents The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Les Damon as Jean and Pat Abbott, those popular characters of detective fiction created by Francis Crane. NBC invites you to join Pat and Jean each week at this time for another recorded adventure in romance and crime. Now here is Jean Abbott to set the stage for tonight's puzzle in murder.
You've heard about the unbelievable fogs they've been having recently in England. Well, this one topped them all. Pat had been working on a case in a remote town in Scotland. And now we were flying back to London to pick up the transoceanic plane and return to the States. The plane we found in Scotland was a chartered job. It was the best we could get, being in a hurry to reach London. Pat, of course, was sitting as calmly as could be. Nothing on earth rattles that boy's nerves. He was nonchalantly thumbing through a magazine. Me, well, as usual, I wasn't doing too well, peering out at the weather. Pat? You want to play Scrabble?
Nope.
Oh, be sociable, Pat. You should say I'd be delighted to play Scrabble, especially with you, Mrs. Abbott, the world's champion player.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I found a set, Pat. Now I'll get a pencil and paper and we'll play. Let's see, I have a pencil. Oh. Maybe he has some paper.
Who?
That man right in front of us. That very distinguished-looking man.
Well, if you're looking for an excuse to talk to him, dear, go right ahead. I'm not the jealous type, you know.
Not much. If he talked to me for more than 60 seconds, you'd pick him up like you were back out west with a newborn calf. Toss him out of the plane.
I would not. Now, go on. Ask him for the paper.
Okay. I beg your pardon.
Yes?
We wanted to play a game, and we haven't any paper. Have you?
Oh, surely. I have a pad right here in my briefcase.
Well, it's awfully kind of you.
Oh, not at all. There you are. Go on, take the whole pad.
Well, thank you.
Sounds a bit rude, but it isn't a game 3 could play, is it?
Why, surely, Mr.
Dr. Rhodes.
Oh, I'm glad to know you, Doctor. I'm Jean Abbott, and this is my husband, Pat.
You aren't Dr. John Rhodes, the psychiatrist, are you?
Yes, I am.
Well, I'm delighted to meet you, sir. I read your book, Psychoneurosis in Wartime. Jean, Dr. Rhodes is one of England's foremost analysts.
You sound as though you were quoting the dust jacket on my book. I wish you wouldn't. It's most embarrassing. Are you a physician, Abbott?
No, I'm a private detective from San Francisco. Your book, as you might well imagine, was very closely connected with my field.
You mean some private detectives read? I was under the impression they all solved their cases by being periodically knocked unconscious.
Well, that happens, too. But criminal psychology is also helpful at times. Your theory about us is very much like our theory about you.
And what is that?
That all psychiatrists begin a case by fluoroscoping the patient's wallets.
I'm afraid our business is considerably more serious than that.
Especially, Doctor, in the area where psychosis becomes crime?
Yes, Mrs. Abbott. You know, our most widespread problem medically today is not heart disease or cancer, devastating as they are. By statistics, it's mental illness. Hundreds of thousands of persons lie in hospital beds today because they are emotionally ill. Still more are at home or wandering the streets.
Wandering the streets, contemplating murder, eh, Doctor?
Occasionally.
Does becoming absorbed in the criminal mind sometimes make you, well...
Wonder about myself? Of course. I simply like to think my more evil impulses are reasonably controlled, though.
So controlled you could never commit homicide?
No, I'm susceptible, too. But we are admitting an entire area in this discussion. The area of fanaticism. The lunatic who believes he must have power in the form of admirers, followers, who believes he has a special mission on Earth, even though it means bloodshed. Which gets me to my present trip.
Might we ask what that is, Dr. Rhodes?
The British government is sending me to Kensington Downs to a hospital there. There are some very perplexing cases in that hospital. Cases of fanaticism.
Pat,
I'm going to...
Excuse me, Pat. Pat, something's wrong. The pilot isn't cutting that motor. It's missing.
Yes, I know. I hear it. It's all right. It'll pick up again.
Pat. Pat, the light.
Steady, Mrs. Abbott. If anything were really wrong, the pilot would warn us.
Just stay in your seat, Jean.
But
don't fidget and don't become hysterical. We can always make a belly laugh. We aren't over water. We're somewhere near London. He'll find a place to set us down. This whole section is pockmarked with airports.
Fasten your safety belts. Fasten your safety belts.
Pat, we're going to crash.
Now, easy, darling.
Oh, Pat.
Get that belt tight.
Yes.
There you are.
Pat, we'll be killed. We'll be killed.
Now, don't lose your head, Jean.
Oh, we're going to die. Pat, we're going to be killed.
No, we're not. Now, darling, steady. Steady now.
Oh.
Steady.
Pat! Where are you, Pat?
Jean.
Where are you?
Jean, darling. You hurt?
Oh, no. I'm all right. Are you, dear?
Yes. Just a little shaken up. Oh. Can you stand up?
I think so. Wait till I unfasten the belt.
Here, let me help you.
I'm okay. I'm pretty dizzy, though. Oh, golly, the plane's all in one piece.
Yes, well, let's get out of here fast. It might catch fire. That emergency exit's open. See it up ahead?
What is it? Where are you? I can't see you.
Over here. Dr. Rhodes.
Is he hurt?
He's out. Cold.
Oh, Pat, there's the pilot outside. He'll help. In here. There's someone hurt in here.
All right. Take it easy. I have a flashlight.
Oh, please.
Shine it this way. That's it.
That chap got it bad, didn't he?
Oh, his head.
Well, I sent someone for an ambulance. They'll fix him up.
I don't think so.
Why not?
He's dead.
He is. Oh, no.
Too bad that confounded motor had to blow like that. Well, you two come on out. We'll take care of him.
Watch your step, Jean. That's it.
Gosh. Dark and cold out here. Ooh. What is this, a swamp?
No, we're about 80 miles from London. There's a hospital down the road. I sent there for help. I'll be back. Have to see about the other passengers.
Ooh. So cold. Can you see anything, Pat? It's so foggy.
No, not much.
Darling, we should get down on our knees and thank God for that pilot. I never thought we'd walk away from this landing.
Uh-huh.
What are you doing? Get away from that motor. It's broken. It's liable to explode or something.
Uh-huh.
Pat, will you listen to me?
Oh, yeah, huh?
Fine thing. A man nearly gets killed in an airplane crash, and what's he do? Calmly strolls around examining motors. Of all the coats...
Jean, that motor is in awfully good shape.
It just doesn't make any sense to go... Good shape?
Yes. Looks like nothing's wrong with it at all.
Oh, but
yes,
darling...
I know. We had a crash landing. It's a puzzle, huh? Yes, and when you've got the answer to that, you might try telling me how Dr. Rhodes got killed.
Well, he was killed in the crash.
He was tied into his seat with a safety belt. He didn't bounce around any more than we did. We're well, but the doctor's head is bashed in. Skull is cracked wide open. You wanted to play games, Jean. All right. Get a pencil and paper and figure that out.
We stood beside the huge silhouette of the plane in that cold, damp English countryside with the dead body of Dr. Rhodes inside the plane. Spotlights swept the ground from police cars. Ambulances roared about. White-coated interns like ghosts flitted past us. Pat was very deep in thought and businesslike. Now that he'd stumbled into a murder, he kicked the ground pensively.
Now, Jean, listen. When they come over to us, no matter what I say, follow my lead. Don't ask questions.
Pat, do you think you know why we had that phony accident? And why Dr. Rhodes was killed?
I'm just a detective, dear, not a crystal gazer. Keep your pretty shirt on.
Good evening. Evening. My name is Sterling, Major Sterling. I'm the director of the Regent Hospital down the road. You people feel all right? Anything we can do for you?
Why, we're...
I think you might help me. I feel punchy from shock. You're kind of tossed around in the plane.
Why, certainly. If you'll come this way, I have a car. You can rest at the hospital, and we'll have a look at you there.
Fine. Thank you, Major.
Major, I'd appreciate it very much. I'm his wife. I'm Mrs. Abbott, and this is my husband, Pat.
Well, don't worry, Mrs. Abbott. We'll have him fixed up in no time. He's probably just a bit rocky from the fall. Now, if you'll take his other arm, he can lean on both of us. That's it. There we are. Now, I'll just tell the pilot that I'm stealing two of his passengers. I say there. Yes? I'm taking Mr. and Mrs. Abbott to the hospital. Mr. Abbott doesn't feel well.
He doesn't feel well?
No, he said he's very dizzy and weak.
Well, that's funny.
Why?
We simply had a rough landing, that's all. I don't see how he could have been hurt so badly.
You don't?
No.
Well, that's strange, too.
Why?
Well, you say the landing wasn't rough enough to injure my husband. But it was rough enough to kill Dr. Rhodes, wasn't it? As soon as I saw the hospital, I realized it was some sort of military establishment. It was surrounded by high stone walls with sentries and machine guns. The major told Pat he'd soon be okay and advised him to lie down for a while. They put both of us in a small private room. You can stop groaning now, Pat. We're alone.
Oh. Didn't I do a terrific piece of acting?
Marvelous, darling. Pat, you know you haven't kissed me for ages. After all, we might have been killed.
You know something? Maybe I should have been an actor instead of a detective. Just imagine. Radio City Music Hall presents Ava Gardner and Pat Abbott.
I was talking about a much more fascinating subject.
Now, let's see. What role would I play? Maybe I'd be... Huh? What'd you say? What were you talking about?
Kissing, remember?
Oh.
Lots of fun. Very popular nowadays.
No, Jean, now stay away from me. I'm supposed to be sick.
Mhm.
What if somebody walks in?
Well, they'll get a good practical lesson in the art of kissing from two highly qualified
No,
experts.
Jean, I'm supposed...
Close your eyes, dear. Lie back. You're supposed to be sick. And I'm Dr. Abbott, who's about to give you something that's a sure cure for chills, fever. Well, maybe not fever. You ready?
Oh, Doctor.
Yes. Oh, your fever's worse. Better give you another treatment.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry to break in on you like this. I'm Vic Williams. The major sent me. I'm an intern.
What is it, Vic?
He said for you to drink the stuff in this glass. It's a sedative.
Oh, thanks, Vic.
Hi. You don't mind my saying so. That was quite a clinch you two were in. Young love's a wonderful thing. What?
Yes, sure is, Vic. Now, if you'll just run along...
You should see me and my girlfriend. Like two lovebirds we are. I haven't seen her in a fortnight. Been stuck here at the hospital. Can't even talk to her. The phone lines are down, you know, on account of the storm. I shan't be able to call her for a couple of days. She must be pining away no end.
Yes, I'm sure she is, Vic. Now, if you've nothing else to tell us...
You're from the States, aren't you?
That's right.
Married?
Yes. Now, look, if you'll just...
Where are you from in the States?
San Francisco.
They just brought in that corpse from the plane, Dr. Rhodes. He looked like a real tough line there in the morgue. Sort of friendly-like. Did you know him?
We just met him on the plane.
How'd the accident happen? I mean, were you two just sitting there?
Look, Vic, suppose we ask you some questions.
All right, I'll go ahead.
What is this hospital?
It's called British Military Hospital, T-17, Kensington Downs.
Well, what sort of men are here? Veterans of World War II?
Yes, ma'am. And others, the weird ones.
You mean mental cases?
Well, some of them are legitimately that, ma'am. The others...
Yes, what about the others?
Oh, you know, the British government's mixed up with plenty of fanatics in the Near East. We're always having trouble with them. They got some chaps here from the Mediterranean Society.
Oh, what in the world is that?
Wild-eyed blokes, I call them. Professional assassins. Stage riots in the Near East. Kill people, usually for money, although they claim some other fancy reasons. A lot of them are homicidal maniacs. Some of them are narcotic addicts. British Army rounds them up now and then, pulls them out of the area, ships them here for the cure.
The cure work?
I often wonder.
Lots of the Mediterranean League in this hospital?
You know, it's quite a three-ring circus with those boys and the kind they attract.
What kind do they attract?
Deportees, ex-Nazis, neo-fascists, the lunatic fringe. There's a lot of ex-Nazis who turned up in the League.
Let's come in.
Everything all right, Mr. Abbott?
Oh, fine, Major. Thank you.
Well, you try to get some rest and take that sedative. It'll calm your nerves. If you want anything at all, just tell Vic.
Thank you.
We haven't any caviar or champagne, though, much as I'd like to give it to you. I'll see you in the morning.
I'm getting along myself. I know you two want to be alone. How long have you been married?
A few years.
San Francisco, huh? What business are you in, Mr. Abbott?
Oh, I make a fortune, Vic. I dunk donuts for nearsighted millionaires. Now, look.
I know. I'm going. Oh, by the way, after I go, bolt the door.
Why?
This is a hospital for lunatics, man. You remember? During the nights, they get hopped up. They start running around. Pleasant dreams.
Oh, lovely place. Lovely. Pat, what are you doing?
I'm going for a stroll.
Here? Now?
What did you think I pretended to be sick for? I want to see what makes this hospital tick.
Or wouldn't you rather lock the door and make believe we're back in Scotland on that moor in the moonlight? You made quite a fancy Heathcliff back on that moor, Pat, darling.
Right now, I'm more interested in who bounced Dr. Rhodes on the coconut and why. I'll see you around, Mrs. Abbott.
Not on your life. If you prowl, I prowl. If you think for one moment you're going without me, I'll scream.
No, all right. Shh. Come on. There are no lights out here. Follow me. Tiptoe.
Pat, look. A light's shining under that door.
Yes, I see it. Oh, come on. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy. I'll peek through this keyhole.
What do you see?
2 doctors. Looks like an operation. They're working on a man's arm.
What are they doing?
One of them has a tattoo mark on his arm. Looks to me like the doctor is taking off the tattoo.
Oh, is that all?
It's enough. More than enough. Come on, Jean. We're going to find the major.
But, darling, thousands of men have tattoos.
Not those men, and not for that purpose. Now, come on, let's go. Hurry. Sorry to break in on you, Major.
Oh, what's wrong, Mr. Abbott?
Do you know what's happening to some of your prisoner patients?
What?
I just saw them in the operating room. The doctors are removing tattoos from the men's arms.
But tattoos are usually...
Now, Jean, in a situation like this, those tattoos may be very important. Every man who served in Hitler's Waffen-SS bore a tattoo, a Nazi insignia and his blood group. Ex-Nazis by the hundreds have them. And as for that Mediterranean League, they probably have a tattoo also. Most fanatic secret societies do.
You're right, Pat. I remember the Pachucos, the dangerous secret society in America. Same deal.
Yes. And once out of this camp, any of those men has a much better cover story. It would be much easier to deny any affiliation they once had.
A rotten trick of theirs. Well, I'm grateful to you, Mr. Abbott. I'll telephone our headquarters in London, and I'll double the guard. Oh, you'd best get back to your room. Mrs. Abbott will be safer there. These men may riot if they find out we're onto their game.
It's okay, Major.
Hello. I want military headquarters in London.
Here's our door, Pat.
Yes, and you're going to stay in this room, Jean, because...
Look out, Pat, behind you. The pilot, he has a knife.
Yes, I see him.
You... Wrist. You break my wrist.
Now drop the knife. Let go of that knife.
All right. My wrist.
I'll let go of your wrist after we finish playing a little quiz game.
All the double-crossing.
You faked that crash, didn't you? Didn't you?
Yes.
You turned out the lights, left the controls, ran back, and in the excitement, you hit Rhodes over the head. Simple, wasn't it? Especially when the plane's supposed to be out of control, anyway. Then you went up front, did a few wing-overs and a sloppy landing. They'd say the doctor died in the accident. Very neat way to commit murder. Now, why did you do it? Why did you do it?
You break my arm. I got paid 2,000 pounds.
All right. You're going to stay here a while. Come on, Jean, let's get out. I lock him in.
Here's the key, Pat.
Get a doctor. My arm.
Yeah, that does it. He'll stay there now. Come on, let's find the major.
Well, Mr. Abbott.
Oh, it's Vic.
I heard cries. I thought you were sick. What are you running about for?
Come with me, Vic. I'm going to the major. We're all in for a little entertainment. Your Nazi guests are acting up.
Huh? Well, what do you know?
Major?
More trouble, Mr. Abbott?
Yes. The pilot of our plane was waiting for me in my room. With a knife. I had to knock him out. He's confessed he murdered Dr. Rhodes. It was a fake accident.
What? He walked?
I'll give you the details later. But I haven't picked up by your men.
Oh, yes, I certainly will. Oh, I just telephoned headquarters. There's an investigating squad on the way here now.
Well, it's about time.
You know, Major, you're quite a remarkable man. Taking all this in stride, telephoning London.
Well, it's all part of my job, Mr. Abbott.
No, I think you deserve special mention for an extraordinary job. Telephoning London, and the telephone doesn't work.
What was that?
Pat.
Yes, it's amazing. You say you called London for help. But Vic here told me a few minutes ago that the lines were down on account of the storm. He wouldn't be able to telephone his girlfriend for the next 2 days. How did you manage it, Major? Is magic also one of your accomplishments?
You've been asking unpleasant questions all evening, Mr. Abbott. I think I've had about enough.
Careful, Pat. He has a gun behind the desk. I can see it from here.
Vic?
Yes, Major?
We'll have to get rid of Abbott. Quickly, too. I wouldn't try any childish tricks, Mr. Abbott, or I shall be forced to kill your wife.
Yeah, surprised me. This chap was trying to gum up the works. You suspect Abbott at all, Major?
Yes, I did, Vic. Since he first presented himself at the hospital. It was obvious there wasn't anything wrong with him. I allowed him to come in, though, basing my tactics on the old saying, give a man enough rope.
You paid that pilot to kill Dr. Rhodes, didn't you, Major? You had to get Rhodes out of the way.
Go on. Very interesting.
The British authorities suspected everything wasn't exactly as it seemed in this hospital. They probably figured some of the so-called incurable prisoners were cured a long time ago. That some were feigning insanity. That all sorts of shenanigans were going on here, so they selected a top-flight psychiatrist, Rhodes, to check the patients. Not a full-dress investigation, just a seemingly innocent visit.
Yes, they underestimated me on that, too, Mr. Abbott.
Yes, you needed a bit more time before staging what was probably going to be a wholesale escape. So you hired the pilot to keep Rhodes from coming here.
You fit the pieces together very well.
Thank you. You even told the pilot to crash right near Kensington Downs so you could sign the death certificate and get the body out of the way fast. Who paid you, Major?
No one. I helped them because I believe in the cause. My father was British, but my mother, Mr. Abbott, was an Asiatic. I was raised in the Near East, and raised in a tradition that loathes the British Empire and the Western world in its entirety. My father left my mother. I grew up as a poverty-stricken gamin in the filth of the worst of Cairo. This Mediterranean League you wish to destroy is my fondest hope.
Even though it's really a hopeless cause, Major.
Is it, Mrs. Abbott? Or does it burn within us with a high, dead white flame? Mr. Abbott, you will drink the contents of this glass. It's an overdose of a sedative I offered you before. It will be fatal almost instantly. A most regrettable accident. Happens occasionally in a hospital.
Oh, Pat.
Take the glass, Mr. Abbott. In your hands. That's it. Now drink it. I said drink it. Oh, my... No, I'll
take that gun.
Oh.
You know, for an apparently intelligent man, Major, it's quite a foolish error to hand someone a full glass of medicine and stand close to him so he could easily throw it in your eyes. A childish trick, as you warned me about before. Vic, try reaching London now.
But
you work for MI5, don't you, British intelligence?
Yes. You are a smart bloke. I've been investigating this hospital for some time now.
Well, Vic, the least you could have done was...
I'm sorry, Mrs. Abbott. Obviously, I couldn't tell you anything. I had to let you both sweat a bit. I had no other choice. I'll call London and report this. I'll see you later, Mrs. Abbott. Get moving, Major.
Bye, Vic.
I hope you'll get to talk to your girlfriend soon, Vic.
Oh, I will. Love conquers all, you know. Get going, Major.
Pat and I finally did get to London. We caught the Clipper, and as we flew over the Atlantic toward home... Pat? If Vic told you he was an investigator, why didn't you tell me?
He never told me.
Well, then how did you know?
Because in the first place, he asked an awful lot of questions when we met him. Too many, in fact. Made me wonder whose side he was on. Then he told us to bolt the door, so I knew he was worried about us.
Darling, how could you be sure?
Well, dear, when the Major said he'd use the phone, Vic didn't say anything.
Uh-huh. And that did it, huh?
Mm-hmm. That did it.
Pat.
What?
I just thought of a wonderful game we can play.
Scrabble again?
It's too dark.
Well, what kind of a game can you play in the dark?
You got neon checkers?
No. I was thinking we could play...
Well, what?
Post office. Footnote to the story of the Dead White Flame. Modern airplanes are perfectly designed for safety, speed, luxury travel, and indoor sports.
the National Broadcasting Company has presented The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Les Damon as those popular personalities of detective fiction, Pat and Jean Abbott, created by Francis Crane. Tonight's cast included Everett Sloane, Burford Hampton, and William Lally. The Adventures of the Abbotts was written by Howard Merrill. Original music composed and conducted by Dewey Bergman. Produced by Ted Lloyd and Bernard L. Schubert. Directed and recorded by Harry Frazee. Next week, same time, same station. Another exciting adventure in crime with Pat and Jean in The Adventures of the Abbotts.